Hello, fellow travelers. We're here at Andersonville National Historic Site from Andersonville Prison during the Civil War. During the Civil War, approximately 45 to 47,000 Union prisoners were kept here. Now the original structures and everything are all gone, but here behind me you can see the reconstruction of the fort walls, and see that little place here, the guard tower. They called those pigeon roosts. Now, what in the world would a pigeon roost be good for? Well, like I said, it's a guard tower. Also here you can see some stocks used for punishment. But you would have armed guards, just like in any prison. You would have armed guards up there. And later on, right down here, you'll be able to see that there are two fence lines marked. First, let's walk right around this wall here and take a look inside the fort. So here you go. This is what it would have looked like. This is what the prisoners would have been staying in. But you got to understand that, you know, on any given day there were over 35,000 prisoners here, and the prison actually covered 26 acres, but very, very crowded, unsanitary. We'll get a little bit closer here to take a look at some of the types of shelters they would have done. So these are the types of shelters they would have been staying in if they were lucky enough to have shelter. There wasn't enough food, clean water, sanitation. Over 13,000 prisoners died here at Andersonville. But take a look at this. So there you have the wall, and you can see the pigeon roost right there. And right here, this is called the deadline. Now, it's exactly what it sounds like. If a prisoner so much as came up and touched this deadline or tried to cross it, they would immediately be shot. They would not be warned. They would not be told to get back. The rule was you don't go to the deadline. That's the deadline, and you get shot. You die. They had orders to shoot to kill. And so that's what the pigeon roosts were for. They had armed guards up there, and that was their job. Now, right down here, I think hopefully you can see these stakes, these markers, and I'll just walk right down here for you so you can see it. But this is the fence line of the camp. So this first marker here, this lines up with the wall over there, so with the fort wall. So this would have been the outside wall here, and then this would have been the deadline all the way around the prison. And you can't really see it, but over there where those monuments are and everything, that's the other side of the prison. You can see over there, hey Ben, you can see over there, it goes all the way around and is marked out all the way around. Now, right down here that we're walking toward is the lower part of the camp, and it actually, basically, it almost divides the camp in half. Originally, the camp was about 16 acres, and then they enlarged it another 10 acres to make it a total of 26 acres. And, you know, right now, I mean, this is just beautiful green. You can still see the earthworks. And of course, they've got the outline marked out. But right down here where we're going was probably one of the worst places in the camp. And it was one of the worst places in the camp because of sanitation. See, there's a creek that flows down through here. And this is where the prisoners were supposed to get their water, where they bathed, and where their latrine was. Latrine is toilet, for some of you who don't know. The problem was, when they put up the wall out that way, it actually blocked the creek. And it backed it up, and it turned that area into a swampland. You can see how it, slopes downhill toward that creek. It slopes down into a V. So what you had was the fresh water for drinking, the water for bathing, and the water that you were using as latrine backing up and intermingling with each other. Not only that, but if you look up, I believe it was out that way right there. That was where, it was either there or over here. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
But that was where the Confederate guards, that was where their camp was. And the problem with that was that they used their water for drinking, bathing, and latrine. And then it flowed down into the prison camp. So even where the prisoners were supposed to be getting fresh water, they were actually not getting fresh water. They were getting polluted water. One of the major causes of death was dysentery. And another major cause of death was malaria. Because once this area flooded, once that creek backed up and it started flooded, it turned into a big old swampland. And swamplands are full of stagnant water. And mosquitoes love stagnant water. And so malaria was rampant. Illness, dysentery, pneumonia when the winters would set on. Because even though we're in the South, we still get some cold winters. We don't get as much snow and things like that, but we do get cold, wet winters. And you saw the types of structures they were in. So you can imagine that illness was fairly rampant. I'm going to turn around here and show you guys down here where the creek flooded and the swampland would have been. So right down there, so right over there, all of that right there would have been inside between these two roads, that road there and that road over there. That would have all been inside the camp, the prison camp. It was Camp Sumter. And it would have been very, very bad. What do you see?
It's a baby cicada?
A baby what? Oh, that's a grasshopper. Yeah. On a side note, nothing to do with the Civil War, I will tell you guys that my son Sean is having a field day with discovering bugs and plants and all those things, because it's very, very different than what we have there in California.
Watch that.
Oh, thank you. So this is Andersonville. Horrible, horrible place. Probably the most notorious Civil War prison, at least on the Confederate side, and probably the whole thing. Now, the interesting thing is that later on, survivors of Andersonville actually came back and met here and started this, started commemorating this place. And I believe it was in 1901. We'll have to find it. We'll have to find out where it is, but there's a spring called Providence Spring. And what happened was it had rained so much that a freshwater spring emerged. And the soldiers called it Providence Spring. Providence means the protection and mercy of God. And it allowed them to have clean water finally to drink. And they built a nice little pavilion to honor it. So right here behind me, you see we have some earthworks right there that were built for defense. And just a nice panning sweep of the Andersonville property. Now, listen, if you know me, you know how much I love history, and you know how much of a history nerd I am. That's probably it. We'll see. We'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah, that looks like it. Looks like a little house.
We'll drive by there. And just to be here, and the funny thing is, it's only an hour from where I grew up, and I'd never been here, and I can't believe that. Never came here on a field trip or anything like that. And on this site, they also have the National Prisoner of War Museum. And so it covers prisoners of war of all of America's wars. And since the founding of the country in 1776, there have been 500,186 confirmed prisoners of war, American prisoners of war. And that covers all the wars that we fought in, the Mexican-American, Spanish-American, World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam, all the way up to today. Just a little break. You can see the trenches that they dug here.
I can't go in there, can I?
No. With the trenches for the defensive earthworks. But the Prisoner of War Museum is a very, very sobering experience, because you can actually read letters that prisoners of war sent. There's a wonderful video display of families that were interviewed about both contemporary, so like, in Vietnam or in Korea, and then later of families who their loved one was taken POW. And some of them waited 7-8 years to even get word of whether they were alive or dead. I think there was one that waited like 24 years. And you can just imagine, all the different emotions and things that go along with that, of knowing that your loved one's been captured. You don't know if they're still alive or dead. You don't know if they're doing well or whatever. And so just experiencing that. We're right here outside of Fort Benning, Georgia, which is the home of the infantry. And just to be at a place like this is sobering. It's humbling. It makes you feel proud, and at the same time horrified at what humanity can do to itself. So that's going to be it for right now. Just wanted to give you guys a look at Andersonville. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys a little further down the road. Bye-bye.